Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Page. And knowing that the current Zimbabwean passport is tamper-proof, there are 100% chances that that guy is Zimbabwean. But what I cannot confirm is the legitimacy of the passport, this alleged South African passport or South African ID. He's alleged to have produced the first time he was arrested, because this is not the first time that he has been accused of cell phone snatching. Have I elaborated to the point that you are able to understand?
Yes. And
Thank
you say something else again after that?
regarding
You spoke about so you talked about this Facebook, the passport, and then from there's something else that you were saying. I don't want you to lose your train of thought. You can go ahead and make the rest of your submission. No problem.
Okay, my submission is seeing cell phone snatchers in the community, whether they are migrants or they are citizens, it's a symptom of wider and deeper societal structural issues. They can condemn to say this is a Zimbabwean, this is a South African, but these are symptoms. The South African system apparently is paying back for failing to legitimize people so that they can be able to live legitimate, to legitimize their stay, number one. Number two, pursue their business interests and build sustainable and legal livelihoods. So I always tell people to say xenophobia actually is more structural than what you see on the surface. The South African system does not have room for people who are not South African. I've worked in South Africa for almost 15 years before I relocated to where I am now. But believe me, regardless of how qualified I was, I got my honors degree and my postgrad qualification in South African universities. I did a lot of things. I achieved a lot, but wherever we wanted to go, the moment they realized that I'm not South African, everything would just crumble. So I'm now
Right, and that's a good point, Elder. Don't
Yes.
lose your train of thought, because we are here to educate each other, and
Yes.
that's why we are having this conversation.
Yeah.
So you are saying that the South African system is skewed so badly against immigrants to
yes,
such an extent that it might push some of these immigrants to a corner where they have got no any other option but to look at criminality as a way out of simply surviving in that country. Can that be an argument to say, look, for example, let's assume that you want to to sell tomatoes on the streets of Pretoria, right? And
yes,
then the moment you do that, somebody is going to come up and say, no, you have to pay a bribe to me, right? Let's
yeah,
assume that is the case.
yes,
And you pay that bribe, and as soon as you pay the bribe, another guy comes. The reason why I'm saying this is you are not the first person to say these things. Another guy comes and say, no, the one that I talked to you is wrong. I also represent something. You have to pay me also money, to such an extent that somebody that is trying to survive using legal means will end up just saying, you know what, I'd rather join the group of criminals, because the system as it is skewed so much against an immigrant, to such an extent that immigrants are all now pushed into one corner and they cannot breathe, and criminality almost becomes like a way out. That's the only way.
you
Elder, can we argue that way?
you aptly summed it up for me, because on another page that I was going through, must have been a TikTok, there's a guy who, I don't know, well, it's not verified, but there's a guy who said this guy used to be a barber, right? And with all this breaking down of business that are owned by non-citizens and stuff like that, I'm not justifying criminality, but I'm saying if a saloon is closed and that used to be a source of livelihood, and there's no Zimbabwe to go back to, what next are you going to do? So I go back to say what we are seeing are symptoms of much deep-rooted structural dysfunction tilted against migrants. And it's coming back to it who? The South Africans. So it is their system backfiring on them and everybody else who is in South Africa. Of course, who gets the blame? The weakest link. But when you look at,
So, Elder,
yeah,
I mean, we don't need to lose track of that.
yeah,
So, Rudolph Robo here, my co-host, mentioned, I mean, a former mayor of South Africa, of the city of Johannesburg. I mean, who, I mean, had all the documentation as a South African, voted to be a mayor, but then there was a big outcry as soon as he was voted in to become a mayor, and ended up dying in a car accident, which some consider to be very, I mean, dodgy
suspicious.
accident. Yeah. So I'm saying that. I mean, there's also that discussion to say in a country such as South Africa, even if you want to follow the law, the law itself does not cover you in anything. So, in other words, following the law is not even an incentive for a migrant to I mean to exist in South Africa, because those who want to follow the law, they find themselves actually being criminalized and attacked and all that. Let me give you an example. There was another video I saw of an individual that had his license disc, his passport with it was actually a lady. She had her license to drive a car in South Africa, a South African license, and she had had documentation all in order. But as soon as she presented those to a police officer that was requesting for them, the police officer said, "No, you can't tell me anything about South African laws. You are not a South African." And he continued to harass the lady to such an extent that there was a seesaw exchange of words between the lady and the South African. And you would have expected that since she has got all the documents and she's doing everything legal, the police officer, was supposed to respect her. But as soon as you present all the documentation and things like that, oh, I'm running a shop and these are my documents, they actually turn against you. Because they say, "No, but you are not a South African, you can't tell us about all." I mean, that happened also with Operation Dudula, by the way. They started by saying they don't want illegal immigrants. Then they changed, they say, "We do not want any immigrant in the hospital." So at the end of the day, you are just mentioning to say the South African system has become also very, very dysfunctional to such an extent that there is no incentive to follow the law or not to follow the law. It is just jumbled up like that.
I,
I mean, am I making a point, Elder? I mean, you can just continue with the rest of your presentation, then I move to the next speaker. Go
yeah,
ahead.
fortunately, I've watched the video that you referred to, and another said dynamic. I happen to know how Mr. Matongo, the guy who was elected the mayor, because I worked in Gauteng all my life, and I actually know the place. I was shown the place where the alleged accident the accident happened, and all the dynamics. But Mr. Matongo was born in South Africa, but the system kept on rejecting him as if Mr. Matongo had crossed the border like me and started rebuilding his life. So all those, like his case happened before I relocated to Europe. So, and I will not reveal the nature of work that I was doing. I have worked in the communities. The system, the general South Africans are very loving people. Xenophobia starts I always say it's institutionalized. I remember when I wanted to open a bank account, it took me much longer until my employer was like, "But why is it taking long for you to get a bank account?" And which bank? Standard Bank. It took long, and the questions, the documentation beside the permit, it was just, and how it took long, there was no explanation. Fast forward, I struggled to get, just to be eligible to get a bond, just for me to be eligible to get a car on hire purchase, even just basic things like so which corner are you pushing immigrants to? So this is, in my opinion, this is a skewed system, institutionalized
Right,
xenophobia.
right. Elder OJ, you are really making very important points that those who are listening there, also in the anonymous, who are decision makers in South Africa,
Yeah.
I mean, perhaps could be able to listen up to what you are talking about,
Uh,
how the system has become so dysfunctional. Let me give you yet another example. Sorry for those who are, we are holding you up a little bit on the speakers. Guys, we are
it's
coming to you shortly.
it's okay,
But
it's
this, I
okay.
think, is a very important point. Look at this, Elder. You have got refugees in South Africa.
Yes.
These refugees, according to the laws of South Africa, they say that they can only be able to be integrated into the society. They cannot be able to be put in a camp like in other countries. You know, even in our own country, Zimbabwe, we do have a refugee camp in Chipinge,
Yeah,
where individuals from the Democratic Republic of Congo and other nations have run to, and they stay there in a camp.
I, I
South Africa has
I know that
rejected
thing.
all the camps. They say they don't want anybody to be in a camp. These people are supposed to go and survive within the community. That's what South Africa says. I mean, that's what their law says. And now, when you are told that you must go and survive, and you are a refugee, you are supposed to go and survive in the community,
Yeah.
and you have got no money. Remember, refugees are simply running away from their country with the clothes that they are having. They have no
Uh,
money. They have got nothing. But now you are told you cannot go to any camp where the United Nations can be able to feed you. You need to make a plan of how to survive in the street. Then you go to the street, the police are chasing your tail. When you are in that street, they throw away your tomatoes if you want to sell tomatoes. They throw away your vegetables and everything. And there are people who come and they tell you from the municipality, we want you to be paying this, we want you to be registered, and we only register South Africans. And here you are a refugee. You have received the papers as a refugee in South Africa, and there is no any other place where you can go to survive, to live. And the government itself has a law which says you must live in the street, you must live in the society. You try to live in the society says no, we don't want you in the RDPs where it is cheaper for them to be in the RDPs. I don't know if, I mean, I'm saying this from a research perspective. You know, we don't want you in the in those informal settlements. Look, you have no money, so the only place you can stay is in Khayelitsha, in an informal settlement. The government will chase you. I mean, the community, the people will chase you from there. Then
okay.
you go to try to sell in the street. They chase you from there. So I understand what you're saying, that the laws of South Africa are such that no one can actually follow them legally, because they are simply laws that cannot be followed. So at the end of the day, there is completely no incentive for following the law in South Africa.
And,
Elder, just in 60 seconds, and I want you to stay there because you have got more experience, and then we are going to move on to the next speaker. Just 60 seconds, then I go to the next one. Go ahead.
okay. What I wanted to prove to you, South Africa has lost so much talent, so much determined people who are going to contribute to the development of South Africa in a very big way. I'll give you an example. I started an organization from scratch. When I left, it employs over 35 people. And I had to hand over to colleagues that I was South African colleagues. But it almost collapsed, and I still provide consultants from here to stop it from collapsing. So can you see that these are just, I don't know as to what are their policymakers thinking about what is happening. Xenophobia is taught by institutions. The South Africans are the dearest, accommodating, loving people you can ever find. Their institutions are the ones teaching them to reject fellow Africans. I stand down.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much, Elder OJ, and I hope those who are listening will be able to learn something and learn something indeed. But then we must as we speak these things and as we look at some of the challenges within the South African policies and laws, emphatically say to everybody that is here, we condemn criminality. We condemn this guy for, committing crimes, and we do not encourage any Zimbabwean anywhere, even in Zimbabwe. We don't encourage anybody to join such groups. And wherever you hear people committing crimes, please report them to the authorities, expose them. We do not need such kind of individuals among us, and we condemn them in the strongest terms. But at the same time, we are having a discussion. This is me, Hulu, at Purchase Live, together with the Hot Seat Empire, Rosobo. May the hope we have, us and our children, and our children's children, let it be the same hope they have all others, and their children, and their children's children, those whose homes we'll never know, and those whose countries we will never visit. For the hope of a Zimbabwean child or even an African child must be universal, because this is about our people. It is about our country and our continent, Africa. And this is yet another day, another hour, we're having a conversation. Welcome to the space, Flora Roman.